just follow-up video to this one where I solved this using the minus b formula and just showing some common mistakes that people make. So if you're doing questions and you're not getting the answers you expect, you're not getting the answers the book tells you should get, these are some things to check. Okay, so as I said, your A, B, and C here, your A is 1, your B is -2, your C is -6. So that would be common mistake. So sometimes maybe if people have x squared on their own, they might say A is equal to 0, but it's 1x squared, so A is equal to 1. And the more common one is people just forgetting to take in the minus. So saying B is 2, saying C is 6 instead of -6. So that's a mistake. What happens if you do that? So let's say I do -2 plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So 2 squared, so -2 plus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times c is 6. The calculator gives me an error. The reason for that is 4 times 1 times 6 is 24. So you're doing 4 minus 24, which is a negative number. You can't get the square root of a negative number. So it is something you learn to deal with in 6th year, but for now, if you're doing these questions and your calculator throws up an error there, that's what I would check is, have I taken in the signs from the B and the C? The other one would be just -2 squared. So again, to get -2 squared on the calculator correctly, it's brackets -2, close your brackets, squared. Any other way, the calculator will do it wrong. If you just put in -2 squared, calculator thinks that's -4. So that can make this negative in some questions, which will again throw up the error. So just make sure your B and your C have the correct signs. Make sure you're squaring the negative correctly. That can make that negative, which throws up the error in the calculator. It means you can't solve it. Okay. Other things sometimes, so it's the A, B, and C. It's what's in front of the x squared, what's in front of the x, and the number that goes into the formula. What you see sometimes is maybe if you get -2x, people will say, oh, B is -2x, and they put that into the formula. You're not putting x's into this formula. This formula solves for x. So it's the -2 that goes into the formula. Other thing, just trying to do too much at once. So just if you look back at that original video, when I got here in the question, I could have typed all of that into the calculator in one go, and it will give me, if I do it correctly, the 1 plus √7 and the 1 minus √7. I just find when you do too much on the calculator at the same time, you increase the chance you'll just press the wrong key or you'll make a little mistake. So absolutely, you can jump from here kind of to splitting it and straight to those answers and kind of skip over that step. I think you're better off doing it the way I did it in that video rather than throwing that into the calculator. I just think you're more likely to make a little slip and make a little mistake doing that. You know, it's, as I said, it's possible to do that. That's not a kind of, it's not definitely wrong if you do that. You can absolutely get it right doing it that way. Just entering fractions on the calculator. So when you get to this step in the solution, 2 plus √28/2, what people have a tendency to do sometimes is 2 plus √28, and then it's over 2, so they press over 2 now. Now, that's not putting the entire thing over 2, it's just putting the 28 inside the square root over 2. That's not going to give you the right answer. That's not going to give you the 1 plus √7. Okay, so don't put the 2 plus √28 in and then realize you're entering a fraction. So I showed you the two ways that you might put that in the main video. You tell it it's a fraction first, or you work out the top and bottom separately, I think is the way to go there. Squaring negatives, I've mentioned already, just only one way really to get the calculator to give you the right answer there. And then just the minus, so this calculator in particular is a bit fussy on the minus button. So let's say in this one here where I'm doing, so -2 squared, take away 4, brackets 1, close brackets, open, and then it should be -6. If I do -6 like that, it throws up a syntax error. So on your calculator, they make a distinction between this is how you enter a negative number. So that -6 should have been using that button there. And this is takeaway, all right? So take away 4 times 1 times -6, it's that button. So that is how you enter a negative number. That is the operation takeaway, all right? So hopefully if you've made 1 or 2 mistakes, this kind of video will help you kind of figure out what they are. They're just some of the more common ones people tend to make when they're starting out with this.